Oh, rad. What does it say? Curl to node red. That's not what it's supposed to be saying. Let's just see what Twitch says. Just going live. Okay, yeah, it says everything right, just on wrong on my side, so thing. So today we're gonna have some fun. Make sure everybody can hear me all right. Yeah, it looks like my audio's coming through. I was thinking last night. I'm like, you know what? Um, you know, observability data is something that is kind of a need and getting visibility from a cybersecurity standpoint of like, how are we going to get the view about what's like available inside of the manufacturing environment. And like observability is like something that's really hot and something very important in the IT side of things. But what from my experience is those tools don't necessarily are hard to get inside of the OT environment from like a security standpoint. With like a health, there's a lot of reasons why you would want observability data. And it really kind of boils into different terminologies of what the IT side and what the OT side is like. So as far as like unified namespace and things like that is a form of observability data. It's the health of the data, real time visibility, understanding the visibility of that data, and that's what it boils down to. So today we're going to spend some time and just kind of focus on what exactly would make a complete view of observability inside of the OT space. I've got it highlighted here. Of course, AI overview is data that is used to measure a system's current state, such as logs, metrics, and traces. Oftentimes, Node-RED is just used for the connectivity between two different data points, and then maybe some transformation in between. That transformation can sometimes be like formats of things. But here, I'm actually going to drop a message in the Discord server real quick and say, hey, uh, office hours today is, yeah, so copy link, office hours is on Twitch. So, but yeah, the thought is okay. One of the big things is like files. How can we capture the logs of what's going on inside of our environment and send it somewhere else? Like maybe this can be the logs of applications somewhere else. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna spin up a new Node-RED instance. I really should probably have set this up. Oh, actually, you know what? I've got an ESP82. No, no, not ESP8266. I've got a Siemens IoT 250 that we can potentially go online with and see if we can capture logs. And this is like one of those things is like you have these devices that exist within your ecosystem. And of course, we'll be using FlowFuse today, but really this applies to any Node-RED application. Um, yeah, sorry, I had a message come through, got distracted. But let's do that today. So I'm gonna jump over to FlowFuse. We're gonna find my applications and devices and find that IoT 250, 2050, I should say, right here. And we're gonna go online with it. No snapshots. I don't think I've got anything here, but today's office hours, this is kind of like our office hours right now. If you have any questions, please drop in the chat. If not, we're just going to have some fun answering things and kind of making new cool stuff. So this Siemens IoT 2050 is sitting in my basement. Basically, I wrote a blog a while back to kind of get it online. But what we're going to do is, it looks like I was doing OPC stuff on it. Yeah. Connected, reestablish. Okay, so we'll not worry about that. We're going to create a new flow. And what we're going to do is start capturing data. So I'm going to open up MOBA Xterm, which is in my SSH tool that I'll be using today. Ooh. And we'll drop this over to the left-hand side. And what I'm going to do is SSH into this IoT 250, and we're going to see if we can find some logs. Maybe some logs of maybe even the Flowfuse instance or the Node-RED instance running on the system. Maybe some of the device logs of like the health. Because you got to think of all these devices are now coming pre-installed with Node-RED out into the world. And the IT side needs visibility down into these spaces. And why not use, instead of trying to bring in a new tool that, because oftentimes like bringing in a new tool into the manufacturing space has problems. And those problems evolve around like IT tools interfering with production equipment. So maybe that's what we'll do today is our goal is to kind of create a flow so people can start gathering metrics about what's going on inside their environment. And maybe we'll create flows. Maybe for this one, we'll create an IoT 2050 observability tool and see about those logs. And that's what we're going to do today. So, first things first, let's get online with this tool. I'm not seeing it, so I've got to actually find out what my IP address on that is. I'm going to jump over to another screen to get that information for this IoT 250. All right, got it. We might have issues though, because I might not remember my new session password, but we can try. Root and perfect. Accept. Boom. All right, first try. It's probably not a good sign because it's my like default random go-to password, but it works. I probably should change that. All right, so we're online here, and let's figure out where we can find logs from the Siemens IoT 250. Logs from Siemens IoT 2050. So that's perfect. We'll start there. Let's see, identify those logs. And what we're going to do is we're going to monitor that file, and then we're going to figure out where we're going to send it to. All right. Var syslog. Okay. CD. So we'll say var log. Var log ls. Oh, cool. So we got a couple of logs here. Got mosquito logs, debug logs. Really, you're probably gonna want to capture most of these CD. Observability auth logs. Yeah, like for example, cat auth. I'm kind of concerned. I may not, because I have a tendency to drop my password into the username, so I may not cat that one and put my password up online everywhere for everybody to see. But what we'll do is we'll think about like we can capture these logs so that we can send something somewhere, and that's the first step. Like, what is the status and health of your environment? And then the next step is to capture the like metrics of that device, like is the memory, CPU usage, and things like that. And we've got tools that'll help us out with that as well. So let's just start off by showing the process of capturing those logs. So I've got a Node-RED flow here. We're gonna drop a file node, I believe it is, read file. And what we're going to do is look at this one. We're gonna look at the path. And let's just look at a simple log real quick. So cd debug, let's see what's in debug. Really? Cat debug. Okay, so there's some logs there. We have cat syslog. Okay, so yeah, we got all of that. That's going to be our syslog. So that's really going to be one of the very big important ones that we're going to want to be able to see exactly, like, for example, errors here. So clear. So p present working directory, we're going to say slash var slash log slash, what was that, cat ls, and we're going to say syslog. And so we really don't want a message per line because that's going to be redundant, and we really don't need to send everything as well. We only need to send new information as it comes about. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting. So what we want to do is figure out a way that we can capture the data that's in the logs and say what is the last maybe. So this is going to be a little bit more complicated, but this is fun. This is going to be good and valuable. So, message per line. I don't think we want message per line. Stream of buffers, a single. So how could you keep track of this? What if there's an agent that captures log aggregation log tool? Node red log tool. Node red log. Good. Implements a logger and debug logging for control for any insert. Nope. Nope. We don't want the logger. Node red syslog format. Ooh, let's see what this one does. Node red contribs syslog. So it usually comes from a set to an output, UDP node set to an output, a buffer. So that's important. And we deploy that. And we'll look at manage palettes. We'll install this. I think this is one we want. Yeah, we don't want a syslog server. We don't function as a syslog server. We just want to capture data and then send it to a syslog server or some other solution. So, got it installed. And what we're going to do from here, syslog, and I think it said it wanted a single stream of buffers. And then I'll see what this debugs to. And see if it's. Okay, so ah, I don't think we want this because we don't really want to define these things right now because we're not going to be dropping that stuff. So let's just first see how this looks here. We're going to just drop this. We're going to have to put a trigger here, inject node, and this is going to be a buffer. So let's do message per line. Good. This is going to be a lot of messages, but it'll be all right. Should be able to handle it. Okay, yep. We'll let that finish. I'm going to turn this off right now. Yeah, so we're not going to want to send everything. Oof. All right. Okay, so this is looking exactly what we imagined though. We're going to capture it, but it's not going to be like a streaming. So we want to figure out a way that we can say, hey, we've already captured this data. So how to capture log node red agent to capture new log data. Interesting. Okay, so we can monitor a file, but I don't want to send the file every single time. And I want to send it as a full message because that log file can be very large. You saw how that kind of was a and just like really took off. Um, Low audio. Okay. Is it because my face is probably turned away or something like that? Let me see if I can turn the gain on it up just a smidge and let me know if it sounds better. I'll bring it closer as well. So we got a log file, syslog, and I don't want to do maybe a single buffer object. That might get really. Oh wow, it captured that pretty quickly. Um, that's actually pretty impressive how quickly it did that. Okay, single buffer object is quicker. So then we need to do some changes from a buffer. So convert it from a buffer. Buffer to string node red. I always forget how to do that. I've done this so many times, but it's not one of those things I do a lot. So I think I change it. Do it. Because that's just changing the location. Might just have to be a function in which you do. I want to say the string one does it for me. This is one of my favorite nodes that I use. It does a lot of like string manipulation for you. Something I recommend. And we're just playing along. We're figuring this out, and then we'll share it out for people if we get something that's valuable. We're just following along though today. So, string node right here. Grab the string node. We're gonna drop it down here. See what we can do here. So from the message, I want to. Is there a buffer converter to string? See what it does. I think that's gonna not be what we want. It's probably gonna go. Oh, it did it. Perfect. That's why I love that thing. Is it literally does exactly what I want it to do, and it of course concatenated it down for us. But now we have the full file very quickly. And remember, sending message. I'm like, that's not going to be the right way to do this. So, um, what we really want to do is now that we've got it here. And and the way most agents work is they monitor the files, but we would just set it up where it's like a cyclical comparison. And so let's say, for example, we would say inject once and then like on an interval of like, I don't know, interval is every couple seconds or something like that. So you're just constantly monitoring it, and then my goal is, I think I'm going to do what's like a comparison, whereas like I store it into. I really need to store. It's almost like I need to duplicate the files and then do a comparison between the two files and store the file in like a temporary folder, so that on the very first boot, it says, okay, I'm going to duplicate this file and send it here. And then you'll have to figure out somehow to say, is this the first time this file has ever been, if it's been duplicated, do you have a file here that's a duplication of this file? If so, I will, so let me start out. I'm going to copy the file. I'm going to check to see if a file exists based off the naming convention from my previous file. If the file does not exist in the directory that I have, what I'm going to do is say, okay, we're going to capture all the data and we're going to send it on. Then as things continue, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do a comparison between these two files to say, are these files the same? If the file's the same, do nothing. If the file's the same, do nothing. When I see something, I do a comparison, there's differences, then I want to do like I'm just gonna think of like SQL senses, like, yeah, it is an outer join to show me the differences, and then I want to send on those differences. And once the differences have been sent on, I'm gonna copy over the file to the new location and copy over it. So then the difference they're the same again. So okay, that's how we're gonna do this. It's a quick and dirty way, but it's a way. And the thing is, you got to just start with something, and then somebody's going to say, well, there's probably a better way of doing it. And you just say, okay, then do it. I'm just trying to figure this out for my first time. So let's go about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture this single buffer object, and then I'm going to then save it. I'm going to write file. So my initial, and we'll call this init. Initial. And we're going to read because you kind of have to set this up for each file the way I'm thinking about it, at least the way I'm setting up. We can always advance this a little bit more. So I'm going to read from this file, that's this path here. I believe I'll be able to dynamically think about the file name path. Yeah, so we can then define the file name path dynamically later. So you can say, I want a list of file objects that I'll read from and then iterate over those that can then dump it all to the file that I'm going to watch. Let's not worry about that now. Okay. Actually, let's kind of think about that. So we're going to have an array, of files. Is that what it said? Nope. I want files. Don't try to help me there. And that said, that is message.filename. That's what I need to save it as. File name. All right, done. And file name. And then I'm going to create this as a JSON array. And our first one is going to be /var/log/ and the goal of this is once I set this up, you guys can just use this for your syslog and pop that in. Log, and then I'm going to look at syslog. So these are the files we want to monitor. And maybe eventually you can think of it as like, make sure this is a string. And done. Perfect. Done. So then when I dump that out, just make sure I get this debug, deploy. Make sure I get this to look exactly the way I want. So inject, oh, full complete message object. Cool. So there's our full message object. And so array, the first one is var log. So we'll iterate every single one of these at a later time and say, do we have this file? Perfect. I like this. This is making me happy. This is fun. Okay. So if the first file, so this is kind of later on, so I'm going to copy this down because this is like the first step. The first step is to find, is like, does this file exist in this location? And so I say read, read file file list. We're going to change this to file list. Actually, for the first time, we're just going to file name. File name. Okay, file name, message, file name. Because this isn't going to be an array for the first one because I'm passing in the read, but I'm actually not going to be reading here. I'm going to be like removing everything before the last. So I need to do like a regular expression to just capture syslog. Actually, I don't think I have to do all this effort to capture. I just need to do a compare first. Read, compare, move. Yeah, I'm overthinking this. Okay, so read. And then I'm going to store this in the buffer. I'm going to write. Let's do a change node. So I'm going to read the file. Okay. So I'm going to read the file from this path. And it just needs to be of a type string for right now. We're just going to delete this for right now. And I'm going to read this file, and then I'm going to set message.payload to the value. So I'm going to set flow dot source file to the value of message Payload, and then we're done. And then we should now see a flow.context when I run this, which will be stored here. Flow.context. Oh, what do we have? Do we have an issue? No file name specified. Message.file name. Path. Oh yeah, we got a single buffer object. Done. That says by default it can be used to use message.file name. That's what we saved it as. Path. So message.file name. I would imagine it should be a string. Let's try that again. No file name specified. Message file name. There we go. Cool. So now if I go over to context data, refresh, there. Oh, because we haven't stringified it. Or, yeah. So we're going to copy it. Ooh, that's fun. Nope. It's got to be. Just do it that way. Deploy. So now when I read my context store, I should see source file. Let's just delete it. Are you sure I want to delete this? Yeah. Okay. So it's not going to let me, it's just going to store it as a buffer. That makes sense. So I can just delete this because that's just an extra step that doesn't need to be done. Okay. Then how can I make another syslog? I'm gonna have to figure out how to write to syslog. We'll worry about that so I can do some testing. So inject, read the file, and then store. And then inject, and we're just gonna copy this to some extent. Yeah, we're gonna copy all this. And now what we're going to be doing is now we're going to take and we're going to read from a secondary file that is going to be the duplicate that we're going to afterwards we're going to actually copy over. So like once this is all finished, we're going to then say like write file to the same location as this read file. So where do I need to then? We need overwrite file. And then the path, we'll have to change this later. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be temp/temp. Right, but I don't know how, I always forget how temp directory works. How does temp directory work? Retention. Like, as far as the, like, retention policy, is it like... Okay, so as long as I'm still writing to that file, it's gonna live there indefinitely. Temp file is something... Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do is build a tail function in Node-RED so that we can capture log files and then potentially send it on to something else. I like how you said that because now I can actually Google because this might already exist. But let's build it. Let's have some fun, and then we'll see if there's an existing. So we're gonna say temp, and then we'll just kind of call it. We really just need to concatenate this, but for now we're gonna say syslog underscore tail. Yeah, that sounds good. And if you have any suggestions about how this, Emil, let me know. And then boom. And that's going to be like what? So this temp tail we're going to then say this is not going to be message. We'll just drop it here for now. Done. Single buffer object, and we really don't do this just yet, but we're going to then do a compare after. We'll do a delay or something like that. Delay, just to make sure it completes by, we'll just have a second delay. And then delay, we're going to move this down here. So we're going to delay 1 second, and then we need to do a compare. So what if there's a buffer compare? Mm-mm. This is getting into like Siemens, Big Indian, Little Indian, where you have a buffer up to come in. So Node-RED, there is a full tail. The first version of Node-RED, there was a tail node for Linux. Okay, let's see if we can find that, because that might just make our life easier. Tail. Perfect. There we go. Somebody's already made it. No, yeah, and it's made by perfect. Okay, now never mind. We're gonna just use this. This is gonna make our life a lot easier. All right, so Node-RED tail. Even though I was thinking about that, I want to make it from scratch, but this is really the better way of doing it. So that's basically the concept of tail. Let's just import this one, and we're going to capture these files, and then we're going to figure out how to send it off and make it for, in this particular case, to catch you up to speed, Emil, we're using an IoT 250, which is a Siemens Linux box that is kind of really about all I can really tell you about it at this point. It's got some onboard I/O, and really the thought is, how can we start collecting these observability data from these systems to give you a view. So what Node-RED is usually used in the OT space is for communication or connectivity between production equipment without really thought of the systems that are hosting it. And I figured, I'm like, Node-RED's already all in these places, might as well start capturing that data. It's going to be valuable. So manage palette, tail. That was what I was needing, was somebody to tell me what node or what system I was trying to create. So let's tail this. All right, so tail. Perfect. So I bet you it even monitors it for me already. Tail watches for things to be added to the configured file. Okay, so var slash log slash syslog. It really just depends on where you're going to be sending this data and whether it's going to be what it's going to be wanting. And we'll leave that as default. And then I'm going to just send this to debug. Debug node, we're going to clear this all out. Okay, perfect. So every single time I do some changes, I'm going to capture this. Life just got easier. Right. Get done with all of this. We're not going to build a tail function. We're just going to use the tail function. All right, so we're now going to monitor logs. One of the things about this is it only monitors, like, there, you can't put a list of files, which would be nice, but I'm not going to complain. Close the file between writes for any updates to be registered. Wait, If file name not configured in the node, this optional property sets the name of the file to be tailed. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going through. I was like, how would I write this? I mean, to kind of give you some background, I came from I worked at Splunk for about 4 years, and so I always did the device agent. We'll actually probably get into building a tool to send it to like the HTTP event collector in the Splunk world. And that's what I was kind of thinking is like, how can we just start capturing these and make it aware to the IT people that these Node-RED systems and hardware exist? You just need to get the visibility of them. And then you're kind of overlapping when you think about this IT OT convergence. I'm gonna enjoy some of my sweet tea real quick. My apologies. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should have waited to tell me, but I basically had kind of realized how to do it. But the tail function is you almost have to have like a, you really need to do it in like a sense of, I did the brute force way, which is the ugly way, was kind of how I was thinking. But really, I did. Ideally, what you would do is, um, a a way would be like kind of like a marker, like how many lines in are you, and so forth. And then every single time there's a new line, you would just capture that. But even then, that's kind of, I'm sure this is better than what I would ever come up with. So we got our log file, and let's. I think I have. Me too. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because OT observability, like we've now captured the files. Now, what's the next thing that we want to think about when we capture observability? We need to understand the metrics and the health and the status of the system. So I always forget this. There is an app or a node that allows you to do that. And I always have to reach out to one of my colleagues because he's the one that uses it all the time. But it's like stats or something like that. Let's see if we can find it. Contrib device stats, Node-RED for device statistics. Like, look at all these things you can start capturing from these systems, and I bet you not all of them are going to work perfectly, but you're going to have things like device stats. Let's just pull this one up. Device stats, which is memory stats, network stats, load, host name. Let's see what this one works. And we're just going to find one that works for this Siemens IoT 250, because I mean every little system is gonna be different. And we're gonna import, not import. Get out of here, Chrome. I will put you on silent. Listen to me. All right. I can't see where my next meeting is for today, so I don't like overshoot it like sometimes I do. Oh, I'm good. We can be here all day. So, what's the name of that app that we just installed? Uh, Managed palette. That was called Stats, I think. Contrib device stats. What node is that called? Device stats. Perfect. Device stats. And now I want to capture the memory, load, hostname, done. And then we're going to inject that. Ask that to debug. Probably need to do a full complete message payload because of course it's not going to put a message payload or something like that. So delete that. All right, what do we have here? Timestamp, uptime. There we go. Ooh, so I need to know how host name, memory. So there we go. So stats. Was it? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Um, perfect. So now we're capturing this information. And how often do we need like device stats? Do we need like this network transactions, like things like that? Probably only need this like once a minute or something like that, especially when you're talking about the OTs. You don't want to be like, yeah, we're going to find it every 5 seconds, and they'll be like, you're really going to cause production issues, so let's stay away from that. So we're going to repeat this interval between at specific times, nope, not explicit intervals of every minute or something like that. That's fine. We can leave that all like that. You can actually see the what happening is with FlowFuse. Every single time I click deploy, it's taking a snapshot. So you can see like even the syslog data capturing, doing the tail exactly the way we want it, bringing that data, capturing snapshot and storing that and saving that for us. So we're now like really building out a really kind of like a hardened solution. So if you're curious, let's go to manage palettes. So there is a Splunk one, HTTP event node, HTTP event collector. This is something I've worked on. If you're a developer, please don't look at my code. But it works. It's essentially an HTTP. I think it's like a post, and it sends it with a the hex token that you drop in there. We're not going to go through this, but I'm going to just show you kind of how that would look. So I come over here, event collector Splunk, and but this was built back in the day when the colors were still green. So if you know, you know. And then you put in all your configurations. So like what's your host name, what's the token, if you want to identify your sorts types and so forth, default index and so forth. And that's like one way of starting to send that over into something that's like an observability pipeline. So just a really cool way to start thinking about getting the health and safety, or not the safety, but the health and stats from these devices. So pretty cool. We're just gonna delete this because I don't feel like setting this up. But what other things come from? Let's look at this thing again. Saying so we get logs. I mean, metrics is something that we always capture. Like that's, I mean, I guess the metrics and the health of the device. We're already capturing metrics. I mean, that's what a lot of the OT stuff is like, as far as like data and traces. Is there anything else that anybody listening in would think about that we would all also want in addition to a Node-RED OT observability solution? So I'll switch over and we'll see what we got. And so we get the log files. I think I used to have a Cribble. Would that be valuable to show you how you would send this over to something like Cribble or Splunk? Let me know if you watch this later and you want to see this. Let me know because we can definitely do that. But I just want to make sure that's going to be valuable first. Drop that in the chat or the comments after this video goes live on YouTube. But yeah, pretty straightforward. A ping endpoint for external end-to-end monitoring. Yeah. I believe somebody, I think there's a new, so let's look at our ping. There's a ping node. That's what I want to click there. Ping, Node-RED ping. So it's kind of like a heartbeat. Is that what you're kind of thinking? A ping endpoint for an external end-to-end monitoring. Ooh, my brain hurts. So a ping endpoint. So when you say ping endpoint, are you saying like the Node-RED that I'm functioning at right here is pinging another endpoint, or it's functioning as a result of the ping, and then but you're really sending it through what you're wanting to do is send like a kind of like a heartbeat, essentially. Yeah. So you would, yeah, okay. So this would be functioning as the receiving end. So I want to make like an HTTP end node is what, if I understand correctly, a healthier sense of a heartbeat. So we'll call this real quick. I'm going to change this OT observability. Um, and so is that what? Yeah, so it can be pinged exactly, but it's going to be pinged in a more advanced way of rather than just like command ping IP address. So endpoint HTTP in. So then, so if I think about this, it would be like slash ping. Now I think I would do a get if I recall correctly. Uh, because it would be like get information from me, and I would send a response like, and that can essentially be how you get like the device stats and information. Okay, what am I trying to do? What just happened? So we'll hit a debug right here. What am I trying to do? We'll delete that. And then we have to send a response. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. I was like, I'm missing something. My brain, I'm supposed to put something right here. And that's all. I don't think I have any configurations I have to do now. Just leave it as is. Yeah, because we're not going to mess with that. All right. So really just going to delete this for now because I don't want that to be sending an HTTP return right now because that's going to get confusing. It's going to throw some errors. All right. So if I get slash ping, well, it would, so yeah, exactly. A response out. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was thinking about. All right, so I need a new device on my network so that I'm not like qualify or see if I can go here. See what we got. Ugh. It's just some random computer that I have in my network. Clear. And it can be just function as our. Actually, you know what? Let's do Postman. I think I got Postman on here. If not, we'll sign in. Yep, we can do this. But the thing is, this Postman comes from out external, so we'll just do it from here. We'll do curl. I don't want to. I don't want to mess with that too much. All right. Curl. I need help with the curl statement. Curl get request example. I just don't remember this. How do I send a get request? Curl. I think it's pretty much as. Yeah, that's exactly what I need. So curl, and then this is 192.168.222.133. All right. Connection refused. Oh, because I didn't put my port number, and nor did I put the endpoint. Colon. I think this is going to be 1880 slash ping. Okay, so it's not that port. I gotta figure out the default device agent port. Default device agent port. on flow views. Okay, so it is 1880. Let's just do bing 192.168.2. Okay, so we are talking to it. It is online. So bet you it's a different port, so I gotta figure that out. Yeah, but you're right. Don't forget the get, but get is by the default, so you don't actually have to define that. But you're right. That's one of the things that I was trying to think of. I was like all the flags. Make sure I do in headers and format it. And this particular one doesn't have any security on it right now. I don't think so. I should probably check that and look at the settings. Environment. Do so I can come over here and we'll look at. I can figure out my service files. It's like we gotta figure out what we so system control. CTL status flow fuse device agent flow. So that might be FlowForge. Okay, so cool. So or 1881. That's it. That was my problem. I knew it. I was like, there we go. So there's our data. That's how quickly. So is the port? So I had the right IP address. It was the fact that I didn't have the right port number because for some reason I was like, we always like to make things like more difficult. So now I have the ability to, like you said, to be able to curl, to do kind of like a get response, and we can simulate that. So here we'll just, I don't know why I was going to copy that. So let's, I'm going to fix this up and I'm going to organize this so that we can use it later. And so forth. So like right now I'm gonna organize this and group these so that people coming in when I share them, like OT observability. So like this will be a group called OT observability monitor files with tail node. And that's what I should do is I should include all these nodes in these groups so when people import them, they know which nodes are doing. So tail. Here we go. Tail node, and then we're going to just drop that right there so people can see that. And then we're going to copy this one. We're going to make this a group. And this group is going to be monitor device stats with stats node. And then we'll come in here and we'll figure out the name of this device stats right here. And then we're gonna then say group section, and then this one will be yeah. Let's do that one. We'll do that one in a second. Like getting specific stats from a device, like disk usage. We got memory usage, but you're saying to use the execute command to. Again, you might need to give me some assistance here because I know how to like. I'm one of these like classic like I know how to be dangerous type of thing. So we'll fumble around with it. I'll see if I can get it. Let's call this one get advanced health via ping, and then I'll drop that right there with the Node-RED device stats. Beautiful. I love it. Things like this make me happy. All right, so in the same way, exec some cool Linux commands, you can all get all the information you want. So let's figure those out. Linux commands to gather system information. So we can start here and we'll run it on board to see if it works first. And then from there, we'll get LS CPU. Let's try that one. That's fun. Okay, so yeah, that's cool. So we're gonna get some things like CPU. There's 4 CPUs. I mean, I know these things and commands exist, but this is gonna be fun. So, but the question is with the exec. I haven't used the exec too much, but let's pull it out here because execute. There we go. Because I believe at the same time your command. Oh, I guess I can just run ls. What is it? What is that? ls CPU? Is that what I ran? CPU. Cool. Let's see what happens. Inject, and then what are these outputs? So inputs a payload. So output error and then return code. Okay. So we're gonna just put a debug on all these. Organize that better in a second. Deploy. So if done correctly, when I run this, right, cool. That's fun. That makes me happy. I just love things like this when they just work. Cool. So now CPU information. And so I probably really need to do one of these series for a Linux system, and then I need to do it for like a Windows system. I really don't think I need to do it for Apple. I mean, unless somebody convinces me otherwise, because like they already have like IT is not gonna have problems gathering that metrics. Like, things with like CrowdStrike and so forth, they're already on those. And Windows, like I can see where CrowdStrike might have some problems, or any of these types of like capturing data and metrics from the end might be hard to put, let's say, a agent alongside of like let's say a WinCC solution. And you could say the same thing that they're probably going to be like, oh, you shouldn't be installing Node-RED beside it. But the probability of it speaking is like people use Node-RED in the manufacturing environment all the time, so it's going to be less like resistance because it's already an OT solution for the most part. So capture, capture, C. Oh, that's not what I'm doing. Yeah, capture CPU inform Formation. Beautiful. Deploy. Now we have capture CPU information. Let's go back to the Linux thing and see what other things we can find. Disk information, ls bulk blk. Is that what that says? Nice, nice. Let me clear that so you guys can actually see it. Right, exactly. With those other solutions, you can just get all this information here. No reason to actually add a specific node that may not even capture everything. Like for example, that like that memory, that extra node is nice, but okay. So size, gigabytes, and then, but we don't really have like we have the size, but we don't have like the amount left. I want to install anything. Right? I'm looking at that right. It's not telling me how much is consumed, right? Right. Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw any hate or shade. I've been in that world of cybersecurity. It's a tough world, so I'm not gonna be throwing I'm not trying to throw any shade towards CrowdStrike. I'm just talking about in the sense of what a lot of these OEMs and like Siemens, like when they especially install like a WinCC solution, um, they um, basically put a rule in place to say do not install any other software besides this. Oh wait, I'm not actually supposed to say use. My bad. Can't talk and chew bubblegum at the exact same time. Oh, perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. Okay, thank you. Um, but yeah, they like especially manufacturing, and so there's like this neat thing to say like, don't put this stuff on there, don't put this stuff on there, it'll break. And I mean, I've heard of reps coming in and seeing software, regardless of whether it does or doesn't or isn't affecting, they've just uninstalled. I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard of people coming in and just like deleting. Said this is you're voiding your warranty type of thing if you do changes. So let's find, this is going to be the use. Yeah, that's a lot better. I like that metric better. Okay, so let's just copy this one. Why did you do? Oh, this is gonna be painful. I'll worry about that later. I gotta make things look pretty. So this one's gonna be capture disk information, and we're gonna do df-h df-h payload done deploy. Boom. Let's see. Okay, so that, you know, we probably could do some work with that too, though. Mm. I don't like that. I don't like just sending. Well, but the thing is this is also going to be going to some other solution and system. But really, ugh. That's what those other systems are meant to do. They're supposed to parse that out. We don't have to do that. That's what like Splunk and Cribble and all these companies are great for. Like I don't need to do that here. While they would like it if I did it here, I'm not going to do that here. They just want the raw data. They can do that there. That's the pretty thing. We could, like I said, we could do that here. All right, what other stats do we want to pull? So we've got disk information, we got CPU. We need memory information. Linux memory usage command. free m. There you go. That's how you do it. All right. So then the next one, we'll just capture disk information. And then we're going to capture memory. Again, I should probably explicitly say this is like a Linux base solution. So this is free -m. So now run this one. We get beautiful memory use free, and that's exactly what this specific node up there does. Is it captures that, like, captures it and parses it out for us already, so we don't have to do that automatically. Kind of like I was about to build the whole solution to tail a file, and when that already exists, like, yeah, no need of doing that. Okay, so am I missing anything else? What other information from an observability perspective should we have here? We gave an example of logs. I'm not gonna. There's probably a better way of like looking at the full directory, but it says file name, so you really just need. It's better to just identify the files. Like, yeah, there's tools that you can just like look at a directory, any new file added, blah 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 blah. I think we should be more kind of like a zero, not a zero trust, but a select which files. OT observability. And again, this is on a physical device that is an IT or IoT or OT specific hardware. All right. So we got these things. Device stats. And like what I want to do, this is what we're going to do now. So one of the beautiful things, and this is cool, about Flowfuse. Let's take this all and we're going to add this to our team library. So we're going to export this and I'm going to drop it in the team library. I'm going to make a, let's see if I can create a new folder. I'm going to call this Observability. And then in this folder, we're going to call this Linux Observability. Perfect. So therefore, when I export the library, now I want to go back over to Flowfuse, and I want to use this in other places. If I go to my team library, now I've got my observability, and I'm going to create a Linux one. I'm going to create a Windows one. So therefore, anytime there's a device that has Node-RED, I can just say, okay, when I log on to it, let me just automatically load this in. It'll already be configured to what our company's like endpoints are, or maybe that's just like the last information you put in is like what's the local endpoint that's going to capture, be like the pipeline aggregator. You can think of like a specific location or facility. You're just going to plug in that IP address that we all know, and you're ready to go. And makes it a lot easier, customizable to your plant and facility. So, and then you can come in and take a look at it. What's it doing? Oh, that makes me happy. That's fun. Cool. I really should build out the tail custom. Let's see if somebody's got a custom tail. Tail written with flows. Node red tail flow example. No, we don't want to look at that. Maybe that is what I still need to build. Like, even though that, because if you go back to your point, like this tail node is great, but then you have to remember to install the node, and that's why it's important to like keep that noted there because you know how to then which one you need to download and import into your specific application. Ooh, I like that one. System control status Docker. See, oh, how about this? Now, this gets a little bit more complicated because, again, this is where I know the answer is probably like no, it's going to work because Docker is one way that a lot of people will install their solutions. And if you're in a Docker container, getting that like core, because the thing is about running in a Docker is that when you're in that side of the Docker, you don't really know you're inside of a Docker platform. Is there a way that we could capture data outside of the Docker platform? Because I doubt you can do that. That's the whole point of a Docker is to not be able to execute on the root system. Maybe that'll be for future thoughts. But let's capture Docker, and that's a good example. Like, let's capture Docker. Oh. Okay. So capture Docker health. I do like this one. This one's pretty cool. So let's see. I don't think I have Docker on here, so I don't think it'll work, but we can try. System ctl status Docker. No. Okay, now I got a new fun ping. Okay. What about can you dynamically pass? Ooh, that sounds dangerous. Hey, I'm gonna say it anyways, just to show you how dumb that would be to do this. But it would be cool to do this, but real dumb. You definitely want to have some security. Um, to be able to pass and do a get, or I guess it would be a post where you would then pass in a variable that then could be dynamically dropped into an execute function to capture system information. And then I realized that's real dangerous because then that allows somebody to write a specific command from anywhere from post command and really wreak some havoc. So how about we not do that because that's real dumb. I mean, there's definitely ways to doing that securely, but I can't see of a situation where that's smart. No, we're not gonna do that. You could do that. That's one of the things and beauties about Node, right? Is like you can really do some stuff that you'll like think back on, and be like, that's a really bad idea. That was one of them. I was like, because you knew exactly where I was going. Like simply because with a uh here let's just blow this do this real quick and we'll make an example of it so people are watching. Don't do this. Yeah, read only. That's why it would be a get. Yeah, read only. Like do this is where people are gonna be like, yeah, that's real. So do an HTTPN with an execute to then return what is it? Response. Yeah, like a response node from here. And then your payload is configured to do so and append to the execute command. So right now we don't have any execute command, so therefore I could do a wow. Yeah, I mean, I get it. If it's in your own surface but in production, yeah. Server didn't survive long. People started having funny, and that's one of the yeah. That's funny. Um, but yeah, you would do a post command, and we would say chaos, chaos. Yeah, we're just gonna do chaos, and we're gonna test this out. Hopefully, nobody is like seeing this right now, and it's like on my network. You need to check the append. So If I'm configured so it appended to the execute command. Oh, you're saying. Yeah, but if I do this right, which I think I am, where I said ping. So how do I do a post? Now I gotta figure out how to do a post. I always forget the flags. Curl post flag example. Is D, is that my data? Okay, cool. So this is my example right here. Okay, let's um check the append in the execute node. Oh, I need to check. Gotcha. Gotcha, thank you. So it knows that the append is available. Took me a second. I made it. Okay. And we're not going to have any commands, so therefore, then I say curl. And then we'll look at some of these commands. So df-h, df-h, post, and this is going to be 192.168.222.133:1881/chaos, and let it rip, tater chip. Ooh, error. Let's see what the error is. So I did something wrong. But let's see. df. Okay, because it is an object. So I have to do some change there, which change. Don't, again, if you're just tuning in, don't do this. We got to change the object contents. Okay, I know what I need to do. So we need to give it command colon. I think this is what I need to do. I think potentially. And then I can then say path and then set the message of payload to message.payload dot command. No, because I'm not actually doing it in the structure. Okay. JSON structure. I always forget JSON structure. Again, I gotta make sure I do this right. So, okay, I need to do this. Okay. That's not what I wanted to do. So I think I still have quotes there, and maybe the quotes aren't necessary anymore. I think that's gonna break it. So I'm just doing something wrong in my curl. Yep, I got it. I'm just doing something. I don't. I look at this stuff all the time. It's a open bracket. Yeah. Guess what I do wrong? Yeah, cool. That's right then. I didn't have that right. Okay. We'll see if that barks at me for which. Okay, come on. Okay. I'm so confused, but we'll figure this out. So I'm getting it to come in as an object, but it's for some reason it's looking at it as like something different. And my brain's not able to understand that. And maybe it's because I'm not passing it. So I need to change my header as content type application JSON. Yep, let's try that. And that looks more like I need to do it there. So it's a single quote and then curly brackets. Cool. Okay. Oh, Control C. All right. And then we'll do this real quick. Then we'll drop single quotes. Again, don't do this. We're just having fun right now. Boom. There we go. So, all right. And again, do as I say, not as I do. What we just did here we created a chaos endpoint where you can then ask and execute basically any command on a Linux system just by coming here. So we could say curl -d and then say present working directory. So then we know exactly where you are in the directory there. Yeah, I need not gonna let this one say so. Present working directory, and then you would just have to pipe. What happens if I cd home and then does that change? I don't think it's gonna be. It's gonna be. It's not gonna be stateful. And a hacker was born today. Yeah, it's always gonna be C. So if I come back here and say cd dot dot, it's not gonna be stateful. So then you just have to pipe. Yeah, you have to pipe in commands in there, but that's not that difficult for somebody that has this level of access. So we can go ahead and just do this little disable that and deploy. But in reality, what you could do instead of chaos, what you would do is instead of taking in that command, you would just define the command here. So then, therefore, you can be like a slash memory, slash CPU, slash this. So anytime you wanted to get an update on that information, you can make that request. Again, for like observability, that usually isn't the best way of doing it because of observability doesn't necessarily want to be active in that polling process without having like another application running, because it's usually just a passive like send me all your information. It's more of like the endpoint where you send all your data. Not it doesn't grab data very well or does it very often. There are ways. It's not impossible, but that usually requires another application on top of those things. All right. I think we had fun today. I don't think there's anything else. What I'll do Docker health. We had Docker health information example. And we're going to copy all this. I want to make this look just a smidge prettier. I'm going to rename this one chaos. Deploy. And again, every single time I'm clicking deploy, if I go back over here into node or flow fuse and look at my applications, I want to say my IoT 250. Where is that? Blogs, devices. All right, devices. IoT 2050. I don't know where it's living and what application's living in underneath it. It's underneath blogs. Oh, wait, I clicked on the wrong one. Test, there we go. We're underneath application of demo. You can come over here and look at the snapshots, and we're taking snapshots, and we can say backup. I'm just reading. In the same way you just use and inject and send to MQT. Yeah, exactly. You just send the data somewhere. Works better for some places that are like observability solutions and tools. Um, so I've seen they like to either capture data at rest, like a kind of like an agent where we were just watching and tailing things. They have their solutions to do that, but the in direction of where all that data is going, they like to capture and just like be a funnel of information. They don't want to have to go out and reach. They might have applications that do that application and reach, but they usually live on the solution. So we're gonna say this was office hours, flow fuse, observability. And we're just gonna save. And so now I just create a snapshot. I think I create a snapshot. Yeah, there it is. I was like, I think I just created it. There we go. And so I got that. I can capture it, download the package.json, and so forth. But the last thing I want to do before I call out for today, well, the last two things, I'm going to update my team library. So if I say export current flow, team library, observability, observability, export, and then replace it. So now I've replaced that team library. So anytime I'm starting and somebody's like, hey, how do I do OT observability? Here you go. And now I'm going to share it on flows dot node-red.org. flows.node-red.org. There we go. And we're going to add a new flow. OT observability on Linux devices. Example. And we're going to drop flow. I think I exported that. Current flows, all flows, current flows. Selected nodes. Let's do current flows. And copy the clipboard. Drop that into our flow. So now we have that. And say, here are examples of how to turn a existing node red device into an observability agent to send data onto to capture data. And nodes. I think I should capture those so we know what we've got. Just to be friendly. Manage palettes. So we've got the stats node. Nodes. And then we have the... We didn't end up using the string node. And then we also use the tail node. Tail node. Cool. Yeah, exactly. So that will also be working for IoT devices. So are you asking if this will work for an IoT device? Is that what you're asking, Emil? Yeah, but this should work for IoT devices. The device that is running this on is an IoT device. It just really depends on the flavor of IoT devices that it's being currently running. So observability. Really, it's observability. I don't think of anything else that we can go. Yeah, I'm not following, but that's all good. So example OT observability on Linux devices. Beautiful. Let's see how it turns out. Does it all for us. There we go. If anybody wants a copy of it, it is available. I will drop it here. Today's flows. Oh, right. Yeah, gotcha. Understood. But I think we're gonna call it a day here. This was fun. If you like this, please say you'd like to see more of this content. If you don't like it, say that as well. Just be nice about it. Uh, and we'll keep it coming. We're just wanted to play around with this today, see what the. I really wanted to see if there's going to be an appetite for this type of thing. So we always like to focus on industrial here at FlowFuse and the use cases there. And this kind of tied into it because really, at the end of the day, we're all part of this IT OT convergence, this unified namespace, and building tools that everybody can use. So, again, if you like this, like, share, follow, share it on LinkedIn, wherever you want to see, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna try to do this about every Thursday, but again, it's one of those things. Is like, do we have you know the content for it? So one thing I want to add, we will have a webinar next Wednesday. That's going to be going over the device agent, how to set up the device agent. Yeah, Mill, thanks for showing up. That really you made it fun. We'll be going over the device agent. If you want to know more about that, you can go to flowfuse.com. We're gonna have Steve on here. If you don't know Steve, Steve's a great guy. He's made a lot of the nodes. He's on the development team here. He's got a background in manufacturing and automation controls, just like me. So he and I like to banter a lot on stuff, but we'll be talking about how you can manage remote deployments of Node-RED, distributed deployments, and how that kind of functions and works, and how you can easily scale that. But again, thank you for guys for joining. Depending on whether or not I got an idea for next Thursday will depend on office hours. I tend to may or may not do office hours on weeks that we have webinars. Again, just get back into things and see how people enjoy it. But again, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time.